welcome to another episode of Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome to a rainy and gloomy Wednesday in Northeast Ohio. So today is the last day of Mental Health Awareness Month. So all my people that is struggling with mental health struggles. So I would like for you to ensure that you are doing the thing that you need to be doing. Just keep doing it and find people to do it with. So that's pretty much all I got for right now. But first, we do have one of my closest friends. I don't even know if I call him a friend. I think he's a brother. So one of my closest friends, he is doing big things. He's always did big things. He has been one of the most stable individuals in my life. So I would like to introduce Michael T. Leftwich, JD. What's going on, Mike? You got to come up to the mic.
What's going on? Is that close enough? Am I good now?
Wait, go. We got to get you in. We got to get you in there.
Get me right now, brother.
All right, so come up to the mic.
Come up here?
Yeah, all the way.
Here?
There you go. Bring it up like we used to do back in the day with
right
T.
Here?
Yeah, right
close?
there.
All right. How you doing, Brother King?
What's going on? So I want to make sure that everybody recognize who we got in the studio today. This is a guy I've been knowing for well over, 25 years now?
It's been a long time.
So it's definitely been greater than 25 years, because I remember one of the funniest stories is when my oldest son, Christian, was still baking. You assisted on the move and found out. I was like, oh, wow. You know.
Yeah, you dropped that surprise on me. You didn't tell a brother before I came over that anybody was expecting, and I got there and went, oh, this is happening? Nobody's going to give me the heads up? Like, okay, cool.
It is exactly happening. So It's definitely been well over 25 years. But, you've been with me for a while. We've been through a lot of stuff. But I really wanted to bring you on based off of some of the things that you do in your life. So let me go all the way back. So first of all, you are a father, you are a husband, not in this order. You also have your law degree. So just in case Shiny listening, you have your law degree. So you got a lot going on in your life. But you're also the president of Delta Rho Sigma. Yeah. I was about to say the one up in Cleveland, which is the graduate chapter of Phi Beta Sigma. So you are a Mason. So you got a lot going on for you and a lot of things going on. But you also work for one of the largest companies in the United States, which is Temkin, which we're not going to focus on. But you work in the HR department.
Yes, I do.
And you're one of the few black folks that I know that work in the HR department pretty high up. And so I really wanted to bring you on and talk about this issue we got with diversity and inclusion. Okay. As the nation has changed, it seemed like for 24 months, 24 to 36 months, we had a big, view on diversity and inclusion. And just like that, just like everything else that has to do with inclusion, it went away rather quickly. But we're going to talk about that on the other side of break. But I do want to just go backwards. So although I know you, people don't know you. Yeah. And your trek into where you are right now has been kind of interesting. So the very first thing that I always like to ask any of my guests is the strength question. So you ready?
Lay it on me.
You ready?
Go ahead.
My first question is based on, a lot of things that you do and all the hats that you wear. You, like I said, you're one of the most reliable individuals I know. I know that any moment that I need assistance, I can call on you. And I've always wanted to know, where is it that you find your strength in your day-to-day life?
Wow, that's a great question. I wish I had been prepared with some of these questions ahead of time. That would have helped my response.
We're not preparing. We're just doing.
I know. We're just freestyling.
We're just doing.
The strength I find, I think a lot of it comes from family.
Okay.
From friends. I don't know if it's the best way to look at everything, but
right.
For me, I always want to make sure that, my mother and father are proud of me and proud of the things that I do. Mm-hmm. So that pushes me. I want to make sure, my son, my wife look at me, they're proud of me. My friends look at me and they see me in a certain light, and they know that I'm someone they can rely on, someone they can trust. someone that will deliver, someone that supports them, someone that loves them. So, for me, it's that those close personal connections.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where I pull that need to deliver, that need to be there, to be present, to be involved, to be engaged. I don't want to have that regret that I wasn't there for someone.
You weren't there.
So, for me, that kind of keeps me pushing. It keeps me driving. And then also just, being an inspiration to others around me. Because if they see me do it, then they know they can do it. Just like I saw others do it before me, lets me know that I can achieve it as well. So I'm always sitting there just going like, I got to push. I got to do more. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm probably selling myself a little short because I do wear a lot of hats, but I always feel like I got to do more. I'm not doing enough. I'm not delivering enough. I got to excel. I got to continue to push. I got to push harder. Yeah. But for me, it's just that knowing that the people around me that I love and care about, that love and care about me, see me as someone they can count on. Okay. So that to me is what kind of drives me.
So this whole idea of ensuring that you show up, because that's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying what I want to make sure that everyone who counts on me and who, cares for me, I show up for. When showing up for somebody becomes too rough, one of the things that you and I go back and forth on is letting it go.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be, human. So how annoying is it to have a close friend who's a therapist who's constantly telling you to allow yourself to be weak?
It is not annoying. I appreciate everything that you bring into my life. Some of it is harder to deal with than others because sometimes you have to face some truths. Maybe you don't want to face the truth, but that's okay. It is for my development. It's for my growth. It makes me better. Okay. So the conversations we have, the connection we have makes me a better person, a better man. So I appreciate it. It's not hard at all. I take all that in stride.
All right. I mean, I'm just saying, I know how I can get. Shout out to everybody who has ever connected with me on a professional or personal level, but I know how difficult it can be. Definitely when you got people around you, constantly coming to you, while you also have people constantly coming to you and saying you need to drop something. So you are one of my few friends. Let me count them right. So I got Walt Baby Love, Walt G, and also I got you, and I'm pretty sure there's at least one or two other ones who grew up in a actual complete family, right?
And I knew where you were going with this.
Right,
when you started.
Right.
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
Your dad is one of the coolest. So
yes.
One of the funny things about your dad is that. Me and Justice and all the rest of us has said this was like, your dad is the cool one and you not the cool one.
Yeah. Somehow y'all met him and then y'all was like, apparently coolness skips a generation.
It does. It does.
He got it. Maybe my son's got it. Maybe he's got the cool. I'm okay with that. I will sacrifice my cool for his cool. As long as he has swag, we good. It's okay. I'm all right with that.
I mean, because it's unique because you're the oldest and you got two sisters.
Yep.
Shout out to the Leftwich sisters. You got two sisters, and so that concept of strength and that concept of being there perpetually. I mean, you were kind of primed for it. And one of the funniest stories you ever told me, and I don't know if your mom listened to. Hey, Mama Leftwich.
What you about to say?
Well, wait, just wait.
All
Come
right.
on now.
All
One of
right,
the funny stories you ever told me was how when y'all used to get the live trees. And your dad used to make you hold the tree.
Yes.
And he'd be like, "Hold the tree, boy."
Yeah, he would be yelling, fussing at me to hold the Christmas because you got to put it in that base and that ring. You got to get everything even.
Right.
So it was always a big deal because you get everybody over there. You get this big tree. You get it all the way back, and then you try to let it sit in your garage, open a little bit before you drag it down to wherever you're dragging it to. And it was an evening of him fussing at me to hold the tree straight, and my mom and sister sitting back watching, like waiting to decorate everything. But he's just fussing at me, Michael, the full name, because you're in trouble with his full name. It's
right,
Mike.
you got to say the full name.
Hold it straight, Michael. I'm holding it straight. I'm holding it straight. And I'm sitting there like trying to hold the tree, and it's heavy, and I'm young. And he's like, just hold it straight. You got to hold it straight. And so he's just yelling at me, and the dynamics of a family. It's fun. Those little things stick with you forever.
I say all that to say is, having someone that you can identify from a gender standpoint gives you first the optical strength, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then that second level of learning, which is that trial and error, right? Definitely that's that trial and error. And then the other part is something that you quite frequently say is a lot of how you decided to be as an adult was based off of how, what you learned from dad. Right, and I call him dad sometimes. When I see him, I call him dad in Leftwich. He know that.
Yes, he's okay with it. He likes it.
Yeah, I know.
He asks about all y'all all the time.
I know.
Yes.
So some of the things that you learn, far as being that that passing down of information, was that something that your dad got from his dad, or how did y'all ever talk about that?
One of my favorite memories that I have of him, and we used to run errands on Saturday morning together. We'd go out. This is back when I had hair. I am follically challenged for the people who are watching this.
We're both bald.
We're both bald. It's been a long time since anything has grown. Yeah. My wife's grandfather would say grass doesn't grow in a busy street. That just means we got a lot on our mind, brother. So it's
whatever.
Okay. But one of my favorite memories back in the day when I had hair and we was getting it cut and I was young and we were running around running errands on a Saturday morning is my dad telling me, and I was only maybe 11, 12, he was like, look, there's nothing new going on out here.
Right.
Everything you and your friends are about to do, me and my friends have done.
Right.
So if you want to know about it, come and ask me. I'll tell you. I'll let you know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to let you know exactly how it's going to work out. And I imagine that's the relationship he had with the men in his life, where it was very honest and transparent, and he would just talk to you, because that's how you learn.
Right.
Because if you're not going to be that way with your son or with your daughter too. You got to raise them both the same way. You got to give them both that transparency. If you're not going to do that, then you're going to let your friends raise them. You're going to let people around them raise them. And they're going to be teaching those lessons. But he was always just, hey, here you go. I'll tell you the real deal. I'll tell you the truth. I always appreciated that.
Go out and give you the 100%. The 100%.
He always kept it real. Yes.
Like, yo, I need you to understand that everything that you're doing right now has one consequences and has been done by somebody else. Yeah. I think that's the part that when I talk to your dad is one of the funniest. He gave me a pair of shoes one day and he said.
This just sounds like him. Go ahead. Yes.
And he sat down, he was like, yo, he gave me the ins and out, right? So he gave me the ins and out. And I really, enjoy being around him. And I always say this, when, the key part is the people that you hang around, look at who, raised them. And that's not to say that anybody, anybody that's raised in not a household, because I wasn't raised in your type of household, doesn't have positive qualities. It just literally means just pay attention to those that you have around you, as well as paying attention to who raised them. So, I mean, as you know, you met all of the people that raised me, and so that is something that we definitely choose to abide by and continue on. But yeah, I always like to talk about Pops and some of his fun. Now back, and I just want to put a bow on it. Like you said, you got a son right now, and based off of just the reality of what the world is into right now, you had a father that passed things down to you, and now you're a father in order to pass things down. How difficult are you seeing it, passing something down generationally that may be outdated?
It's always going to be a challenge, because just like we were at that age when we didn't want to listen and take it in.
Not a bit.
He's at that age where he doesn't want to listen and take it in. And you have to be receptive to the information. Like, you can say it over and over again, but there's certain kind of milestones or moments when they're receptive to it. Yeah. And it's catching him in those moments where he really learns and he sees. And I appreciate when I have those moments so much. I do realize that 80% of the time I'm probably just yelling at a wall or talking to a wall. Like, ain't nothing happening. It's just bouncing off. It's just sound moving around.
My man is just there.
He's just there.
My man is just there.
He's not engaged in the conversation. Yeah. I'll say, are you listening to me? He'll go, yeah. I'm like, you're not listening to me. I know right away. You're not really listening.
Why would you even ask him?
Yeah. Don't ask him. It's the same questions I got asked. Are you listening? Are you paying attention right now?
Absolutely not.
But he's going to be all right. I'm gonna make sure of it. He's gonna be all right. He's good. But you just got to be receptive to it. And he's so young. Still, he's only 10, so he's still young. He's got a lot of time to grow.
The dude is wild. Shout out to my man Clay out there. All right, so we do have to take a break. We got to pay the bills around here, or else Uni come in and tell me I'm not doing my job right.
I don't want that.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
She's a whirlwind. Shout out to Uni. So we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna hear some messages, and we're gonna come back and talk about this What is it?
Diversity, engagement, inclusion, DEI. It's a lot.
Did I
some
say
of the
DEI?
it's diversity, engagement, inclusion, DEI. Okay. Some of the letters they use.
Anyway,
yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back, WOVU 95.9 FM. This is E. King, or Eric, or however way you want to call me, on Unapologetically Strong. So we got my brother, Michael T. Leftwich. I'm gonna say your whole name.
You've done it a couple times now. I was gonna ask if it was okay to call you E King on here, but I see it is.
Oh, you can call me whatever. It's okay. Just don't cuss.
I'm not. I know better than that. Public radio.
Well, you listen to a lot of podcasts, so yeah. I just want to make sure. Yeah. All right. So, like I said, you started off. You graduated from Akron. Mm-hmm. Hence is how we met each other. Worked at Charles Schwab for a while, and then decided to continue on and go. Was it Charles Schwab?
It was American Express Financial Advisors. Then it was Charles Schwab.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And while I was at Charles Schwab, I was going to law school.
Yeah.
Went to the courts in Cleveland for a couple of years, and then ended up at Timken, where I've been at for 13 years.
Yeah, you was in that scandal, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
I wasn't in no
scandal. My fault. Anyway.
Wow. I was not in the scandal. Let's set the record straight right now. Hold on. I was not in anything.
You wasn't in the scandal.
I was not a thing.
Okay.
None of that. Mm-mm.
All right, we're gonna skip over that because I don't want to get kicked off the air.
Wow.
Anyway, so you right now you're with Timken, and like I said, we're not going to talk about Timken, but what we are going to look at is your work in diversity and inclusion. And since this is, like I said, the last Wednesday of Mental Health Awareness Month, a lot of what I've seen as it relates to people going back to work is the continuation of microaggressions. Okay. And so this assumption that, and this is not going to be a spotlight, but this assumption that the HR department is somewhere where I can go and get certain things litigated at and get the company on my side. And in a lot of cases, especially with some of the racial things, and we're going to jump on that diversity and inclusion, it's what goes or what's best for the organization rather than what may not be best for that person that's making the complaint. How do you deal with this? I mean, because you are black. Yeah. You do work in an industry where it's not a lot of you. But there, racism when you're rich is green. It's either you have or you do not. And a lot of these companies are there to ensure that they continue to make the green. So when you have somebody that come to you and be like, hey, I had this issue with a coworker and I need it to be handled, what is your personal investigation process in dealing with that?
So you got a couple of different things.
Yeah.
Let's kind of
I added all that in there.
You weaved a lot of stuff in there. so let's start big picture, then we'll work our way in.
Yep.
So big picture. I think it's always incumbent upon everyone at every organization, whether corporate America, whether it's a community volunteer organization, whatever it is, to realize that the responsibility of diversity and engagement and inclusion is not going to rest on one person or one department or one group within an organization, but is the responsibility of the entire organization throughout, from the bottom to the top.
Right.
It's too much for one person to take on. Mm-hmm. I mean, like any other, change we've had in society, most of them for the better, for positive. It's an effort of lots of people over time that really truly make a difference in people's lives and how they feel and how they belong at, different places that they're in, whether it's work, whether it's school, whether it's like a community organization. As far as an investigation process, now you're getting into like a more formal kind of like legal part of it. If someone brings forward a concern, they're making a good faith complaint like you would with any concern. Every organization is going to have practices and policies in place on how they are going to review that concern, investigate it, try to keep it as confidential as possible. Based on the facts that they find, they're going to take action.
Right.
Because they're going to have policies in place, whether it's their equal employment opportunity policies, whether it's just policies on workplace conduct, appropriate behavior, professional behavior. They're going to enforce those policies. Right. But that's a very like formal kind of like structured way that it's going to work in any organization. But I think the larger conversation about diversity, engagement, inclusion, that's kind of where you start. I think that's maybe, I don't know, Is that what you were looking for? Or are you looking for something?
Well, so to speak, it has a lot more. Let's see. How can I? I think my radio. There we go. It has more to do about, the common individual wants to feel comfortable at work. So we spend greater than, so that's 40 hours plus out of our life at work. And we want to ensure the work that we do, one, is meaningful, and secondly, is being valued. And when you go to do that work, especially in this day and era with the amount of stuff that has gone on with, how can I just say it? The civil unrest. Let's go with that. There are times when individuals, and mostly people of color, I'm assuming, because I am a person of color, they're feeling a certain amount of disconnect from the organization, depending on its politics or depending on who's working there. And they want to go, because they spend so much time there, they want to have a discussion with somebody that, is on their side and going to make their life at work easier.
Yeah. So I think, the idea of belonging, which sounds like what we're discussing here a little bit. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important in every type of organization. You're going to do your best work. You're going to work best in a team when you feel like you can truly be yourself, and yourself is being welcomed in the space you're in.
Right.
I can remember being at the University of Akron, which is where we both attended college when we first came out of high school, and I was a resident assistant working there. And I remember meetings there, and we would have lunch, and we were getting ready to have a meeting as a group, as a whole RA staff. We'd have lunch, and all of the black RAs would sit with each other.
Right.
And all the other RAs would sit somewhere else.
Right.
And somebody in the leadership team said, well, hey, why don't you all come over here and sit with us?
Right.
And we're like, well, why don't you sit with us? We're over here. You can come over to our table
too.
Right. But that's really a scenario that just sets up that idea of, we were sitting where we felt most comfortable, where we felt like we could truly be ourselves. We have our own conversation, our own lingo, our own jokes, our own humor, and we're like, well, we can do that over here, and we didn't know if we could do it, over there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the framework that's in place. But what we really want is, we want you to be you at every table.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have to, cover who you really are or hide who you really are.
Right.
You should be able to be yourself and feel welcomed and share who you are.
Right.
And you're going to be more comfortable. You're going to enjoy work more. You're going to enjoy your coworkers more when you're not trying to, put that mask on, have that facade of like, this isn't really me. I'm giving you, corporate me, or I'm giving you this version of me. I'm giving you an interview. We said the interview person of you, the interview version showing up. You got to be yourself, right? You spend too much energy and effort trying to hide
because
your personality.
It's problematic at times,
and it's stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful. Yeah. It's problematic, and yeah, that's all I got. It's stressful and problematic, because what we want to be accepted. Anybody wants to be accepted, like you said. And if that level of acceptance isn't there, what do we do next? How do we move forward? And that idea that when we spend our time there, so one of the, a lot of times we look at the book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together? I can't think of the artist right now, or the author right now, but transitioning that to what we did in school, or how school was, as far as the socialization, cliques and whatnot, a lot of times equal at work. The difference is the school is there to protect you in some cases, rather than the work may not, and depending on who you are, may be there to protect you. So I think there's a difference, while it's the same concept, because we're all still dealing with the same thing, right? Cliquishness, or we're dealing with this, the idea of feeling protected no matter where you are. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing.
So I think, from the work perspective, the work is there to, of course, as always, like you said, there's going to be the bottom line at work. Mm-hmm. That's I mean, nobody can argue that.
Right. Nobody can argue that.
But you can't have that bottom line if you have a lot of disagreement and you have a lot of people who don't want to work together and the teamwork is damaged. So it may be for a different thing that's driving it.
Right.
That's part of the equation of what's driving it. But they want, even at work, they want people to get along.
Right.
They want people to work together well.
Right.
They want you to belong. They want you to feel included. They want you to be engaged because you're going to work better, which helps drive that bottom line.
Right.
They're going to be a more productive company. A diverse company is going to be a more productive company than a non-diverse company.
Correct.
So that's part of that equation.
Yeah. And that idea that the bottom line, don't get it twisted, right? Because it's still green.
Yeah.
And whether I can make green with you or I can make green with someone else, we're going to make the green. And I think that's the part that where it gets disconnected, because no longer like back in the day with baby boomers, where it was an idea that I am connected to that institution forever, and that institution is there to protect me. Around the 80s, all that went away. And then when, around our, age gap to where we were just getting out there to do, the work thing, it was really on its way out. Now it appears as if it is not there at all, to where the job has that connection to you in a way that makes you feel comfortable that, although you're giving me lip service that I'm valued, where are your actions?
Well, I mean, actions are always going to come into play here, right? At the end of the day, you need to see the results.
Yeah.
And I think, you could look at work, you can look at, like higher education.
Right.
I mean, there's a bottom line there too.
Right.
There's a bottom line in anything you do.
Right.
I mean, and there's a bottom line on both sides.
Yeah.
If I'm attending a college, my bottom line is to get the degree. It's supposed to be to get my degree.
Exactly.
And their bottom line is to keep me there.
Right.
Provide me the tools I need to get my degree. But hey, they want my tuition payments too.
Yeah.
Right?
They want the dividends.
They want that as well. But for all that to happen, it's the same thing as work. They got to create a space where people can be successful.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still important. It still matters. There's lots of factors driving it.
Yeah.
But you have to have an environment where everybody feels like they can belong, because that's where you're going to get the most out of these students. That's where you're going to get the most out of these workers. That's where you get the most out of your volunteers if you're volunteering.
True.
People have to feel included. You wouldn't want to have a volunteer effort where you're trying to, let's say, feed the homeless.
Right.
And then you have a group of people who don't feel like they can participate in that because they don't feel like they belong.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is to feed the homeless.
Right.
So what environment can I create? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be more than one person. Like I said at the top, this is something that people have to do across an organization.
Yeah.
I have to do my part. I have to realize, like, you and I, we're both black men.
Right.
That informs our perspective and view of the world.
Right.
Yeah, we can't argue that. That changes how we view the world.
Exactly.
And we have to sometimes go, let's take a step back and make sure we're welcoming everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, we want everybody to welcome us, just like we want different groups, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's women, whether it's Asian, whether it's whatever that group is.
Yeah.
What are we doing to include everyone in this discussion, make everyone feel welcome, so everybody can bring their best selves, be their authentic selves, and really perform. Because no matter what it is, you're trying to perform.
Yeah.
And the performance could be, volunteering thing. It could be there's a bottom, cash motivation here. But we want this group to perform. And DE&I is important to get the best performance out of this group.
We're gonna take a break, but real quick, the idea that we gotta all row this boat together, right? So if the boat is on its way to sinking, we gotta also help with that. We gotta row this boat together. We gotta I guess bail. I guess that's what they call it when they get the water out, based off of how you view the world and how you were raised. Do you think that you have a specific skill set, for ensuring that everyone is bailing at the same time and rowing at the same time?
I think I have the ability to work with anyone.
Okay.
I think I have. So I think I have the ability to kind of work with.
You're so
connect
Swedish.
With anyone.
Okay.
I just do. I think that's a skill set I have, and I know how to be diplomatic, and I know how to go in there and conduct myself in an appropriate manner in almost any situation. So I do think I have those skill sets.
Go switching.
I think, but I do think it's important to just not put it all on a leadership team, or put it all on an individual, or put it all in a group. Because some of the most effective way to stop behaviors we don't want to see is that people speak up.
Okay.
Because sometimes we're in settings, we see people say something we don't like, and then we don't jump in. And we should
see something, say something.
We should feel empowered to jump in and say, hey, that's not how we do things here. That's not the way we talk to each other. That's not appropriate.
Okay.
Because then they go, oh, okay, that's not the culture here.
Right.
Like, you have to set the culture from everywhere. It can't be just one person setting the culture.
Right off rip. All right, we're going to take a break. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back, Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. We got Michael T. and we got me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So we were on the other side. Let's get rid of that. We were on the other side, like teeing it up, this concept of HR, because that's where you work and that's where you do your thing. With that said, there's another part of, so HR got so many things. I had a discussion with somebody that worked in HR, and I was like, I don't see how you guys do all this, because there's so much going on. So much. Anyway, I did want to jump into this diversity and inclusion backlash.
Okay.
From your standpoint, working at a pretty significant company that has made a huge political impact in Northeast Ohio, and I think throughout the nation, if I can't remember, but at any case, definitely Northeast Ohio. When you're looking at this diversity and inclusion struggle, what do you see from your standpoint?
So, my personal standpoint, it's been, I think we as an organization have made like great strides in that space. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk about overall kind of like the feel for it, maybe across society, it's very dependent upon where you're located at. There are some states where they're making a push against it. Mm-hmm. But I think people are just pushing against things just for, news stories, for attention, not for any real substantive reasons. Because ultimately, when you're talking about this, you're talking about a conversation about people being treated fairly, people being treated equally, people being treated as they deserve to be treated, as they want to be treated.
Right.
Those are concepts that I don't think people really disagree with on a large scale. But in this area, this era we're in now, where everything is quick clips and little hits and quick little media snippets, people latch on to terminology, they latch on to things, and they push against it. But really, you're having a conversation about somebody and saying, hey, we want to make sure that when your kids go to school and your kids go to school and your kids go to school, they're all treated fairly.
Right.
They all get the best of what we have to offer as a school system. They're all being treated, no matter what their gender, no matter what their ethnicity, we're going to treat them. That's DEI. People don't have a problem with that. So it's we have to have a more robust conversation. And it's hard nowadays. It's hard. Nothing's nuanced anymore.
Absolutely.
Everything is, it's the greatest thing ever, or this is awful. And that's how people want to talk about stuff. and there's so much gray in between. And we need to have more gray in between conversations on DEI and all the positive things that it brings. Like I said, no matter what you're in, no matter what scenario you're in, what situation you're in, this is going to make a team or group perform better. But people are pushing against it for various different motivations and reasons that really aren't probably always to the betterment of society and the people around them.
Do you think, so yes, I agree with you. Yeah. The struggle is that because we're in this microwave society, everything has to make sense. And in reality, diversity and inclusion doesn't necessarily make sense, because you're asking who are we attempting to, first of all, if you're looking at it based off of an institution, who are we, right? So that's first. And once you look at it from a who are we standpoint, who are we not including? And then the third question I really think is, who do we need to include? And I think because it's so complex in our world, what we do is boil everything down, because when I hear about diversity and inclusion, I only hear two things, or two fights. We're talking about women, and mostly black women, and anyone that is not white. We're not talking about transgender. We're not talking about we're not talking about lesbian, gay. We're not talking about any of that. We're looking Hindu, or we're not looking in the complexities of the human. Right about now, we're just looking at just white or black or woman.
See, so I think part of that might be, and again, when we talk about this, it's hard to have these conversations.
Yeah.
These are challenging
You mean
conversations.
you and I?
No.
I was going to say
general.
we do this all the time.
No, we talk all the time. But for others, it can be challenging to have these conversations. And I think sometimes, let me say it this way. The problem is a lot of times people are having these conversations, they're not face-to-face conversations.
True.
They're having these conversations online.
I'll give you that.
And when you're having it online, now you're getting so many characters.
Yes.
You're getting a quick thing that you just scrolled by.
Yes.
You're not really having a robust conversation. No. Again, I would take it back. I don't think it's as complicated as people make it.
Yeah.
Every organization, every team, every group wants to be known for treating their people well.
Correct. But
you're not really treating your people well if you're not being inclusive and you're not giving them a sense of belonging. If you're not again, that's part of treating people well. That's why that's why it's important. That's why it matters. People try to conflate things, make things try to put a negative spin on it or pick out this one little story. But that's not like the bigger, robust conversation we need to be having. We need to be talking about making sure we're treating people fairly, that everybody feels like they belong. I do agree, and I think this again might be informed by the fact that we're both black men. Yeah. So a lot of the content that we see, a lot of the discussions we have centers on that.
Yeah.
But if we're outside of our comfort zone, if we're outside of our area, then you do have conversations where it is focused on LGBTQ. It is focused on, maybe the Asian community, maybe women, maybe whatever other group you can think of that you would think of with diversity, inclusion, and diversity, engagement, inclusion perspective. So our scope is sometimes, but that's why it's so important to have it. Because if we had other people in the room, we'd be getting other views. Yeah. If we had somebody in here right now that was part of the LGBTQ, they would say, no, wait. Yeah. I have these conversations all the time. Yeah. That's why it matters. Yeah. Because now you're getting a fuller view of reality because you're including other people's perspectives, other people's thoughts, other people's feelings in it. That's what matters. That's what's so important. That's what it delivers to you. It gets you a broader perspective. It gets you a true view of reality outside of maybe like your bubble, because we're both in our own bubbles. Right.
Right.
So.
And that's the part, that bubble part, because there are bubble parts on the people asking to be included, and there's bubble parts on the people that they are asking to include them. I think far too often, especially now, after the 2000 election, right? So Bush versus Gore. That's when granted, we were like, 20 in our mid-20s, mid to early 20s, right? It was one of our first, no, seriously.
It was 24 years ago, so long time ago.
Yeah. It was one of our first voting opportunities for a major party. And the way that, after things went downhill the way that they did, in my opinion, that I saw the destruction, right, or the separation of the country then. So I think for a very long time, darn near 30 years, we've been dealing with this separation. But that's just within our generation, because beforehand, the boomers, they had theirs too. To bring it back, the idea that the included and those asking to be included, I think at times the way that it's done, you can't legislate that in the way that we've been legislating it. And I think that we've been falling short on our ability to legislate completeness. And I think that has been something that has been there, for a very long time. So way before us.
So again, you got so many great thoughts coming out. I'm gonna try to pick a few things out of there and work with that.
Just pick two.
So the legislation point you brought up at the end, I agree. Sometimes legislation, policymaking isn't the best way to address it, which is why I said at the top, it's got to be something that everybody pushes it. It's a community lift. Yeah. It's a group lift. Yeah. It's a lot less to lift when the group lifts it. Right. If you put it on a rule or a law or policy, it'll make strides. But again, if you really want that change, you need the rule, the law, the policy. You need the group lift. You need time sometimes. Yeah. I mean, you made another point there, and it's a good point. I think sometimes we view things so in the moment, and we don't think about the progress that's occurred over time. True. And when you think about society, if you go, read some history books or get on Google for the people who don't want to read.
Me read? No,
not you. You read all the time.
You
read more than me. I don't read enough. But if you go back and you look just historically, I mean, you go through the decades here. Yeah. Think about the progress that's been made.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
we've come so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, it's never fast enough. I agree.
Yeah.
I want it now. I'm with you. I want it now.
Give
it
no
to me
patience.
now.
Right.
I want it now. But these things take time, and it's hard to have to wait because it feels like we've been waiting forever. We've been waiting our whole lives. But when you look back, if you really look back and you go back, 100 years, and you start counting down, and you think about the strides that have been made in this space,
right.
There's been huge, momentous, gigantic strides, and things are improving. And sometimes you're going to have a couple steps forward, sometimes you're going to have a couple steps back, but overall, things are continuing to improve and get better, and we have to just keep pushing as a group, as a collective, as a whole. Because you can't put this all on an elected official. Right. You can't put this all on your manager. You can't put this all on one person because it's not a task. It's not a task for one person to complete.
Got you. Okay. We got another break. We do a lot of breaks around here.
It's okay.
And, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, so what we like to do, while we wrap up stuff is just try to figure out, in our own little small time, how can we contribute to ensuring that things are included. So I know we're talking about it from a big picture, right? Yeah. The organization, we're talking about from a policy, but a lot of times most change comes from the grassroots. So when we're looking at it from a grassroots standpoint, what is it that you believe that we can do, on our levels to actually, get this moving along? Because although we cannot legislate it, it comes up in legislation all the time. So we're gonna talk about what we actually can do and have a little bit of call to action. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. So let's land this ship. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. All right. So let's land this ship.
Yeah, before the break, you had discussed things that we could do in our own space.
Yeah, we
can't just talk about the problems, right? We gotta have some solutions.
We can't. We gotta have solutions. And if we don't have solutions, we are doing a disservice.
Okay. Well, we're going to attempt. We're going to attempt here to land the plane and come up with a couple things that individuals can do. So one of the first things that comes to mind for me, and this is gonna maybe sound like a hard thing to do, but you got to be willing to have some uncomfortable conversations with people. Okay. And when I say that, I don't mean that it has to be necessarily like a challenging thing where you're challenging someone else in like an aggressive way, but you have to be willing to like let people kind of learn and give them the grace to learn. Gotcha. So for example, let's say a lot of the people who are listening, you and I, at some point, we had to learn how to ride a bike. Correct. You don't get on a bike the first time and just ride it. You fall a few times.
I was a beast.
You learn how to get your balance. Well, maybe you did.
I
wasn't as coordinated as you. So I fell a few times.
All right, my fault.
But it's the same thing in any type of conversation. If you're in this new space and you're trying to understand a new space and learn a new space, you have to give people the room to kind of like learn the space a little bit. You have to be willing to work with them a little bit. Right. So it's giving people some grace. Now, some people, there's always going to be some who they just don't want to learn. They're going to be, negative. They're going to be, don't give those people your time. Don't give them their energy. Move on to people who are actually trying to improve and do better. And start with the lift there. That's an easier lift to make. Yeah. But you got to give people room to discuss things. You have to have people room to ask questions, room to learn. Again, you and I've been black my whole life. I had to fight my whole life.
Had to fight my
whole life. But there are things that I don't know about other communities that I have learned about other communities over the last 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years because I've been willing to learn. I've been willing to sit there and listen and take it in. And I've run into people who have let me ask questions. Okay. And increased my understanding. So I think that's one of those things that you can do. Another thing you can do if you're thinking about your employer, thinking about an organization you're a part of, I think it's always good to have the organizational buy-in, right? So on that end, how does diversity, engagement, and inclusion make our team better? Well, if we get this is going to make your bottom line better. You got to figure out how to quantify it for an organization. You bring them numbers resonate, right? Yeah. So if you can show, hey, the more diverse talent we bring in here, the better we're going to be able to sell to these certain markets, the more the profits are going to rise. That's your kind of one-to-one-to-one. Here's the plan. This is why it's important that we go recruit at some different colleges, right? This is important why we go outreach here, outreach there, because it's going to make us a better business, open up new markets for us, right? So whatever that looks like, you can do something like that as well.
Wait. When you say look at different colleges, because I know that you, and I'm glad you brought that up, you do an excellent job as a part of your organization going to different HBCUs. I mean, you know how my family feels about HBCUs and how they, or how we, I guess it's a we thing, and how we view HBCUs in the way that we want to ensure that, our kids, move forward. Talk about your work, because that's also grassroots. But you're also doing it under Timken.
Yeah.
Right. So talk about your work as it relates to you going out doing grassroots work, in connecting with different colleges.
Yeah, so I mean, kudos to like my organization here, because they came and got me and said, hey, Mike, would you want to be involved with this? We want to go these places. We would love for you to lead here. Right. And that's it. If you're not getting that tap on the shoulder and somebody's not bringing it to you, then maybe you need to go schedule a meeting and have that conversation on your own.
Okay.
Right. But even if it's not recruiting, and I love recruiting because you get the chance to connect, have these conversations, talk about careers, professional development with very young people. The conversations I wish somebody had with me.
Yeah.
My mother, father had it with me.
I was about to say that.
But other professionals.
Yeah.
It's nice to get it from other professionals who kind of can help guide you and push you a little bit. So I love doing that. And it's a great opportunity. If you have the opportunity to do it at your organization, do it. But there's other things you can do too. One of the things that I've always done is I've always made sure that when I see somebody who's new in the building, let me go walk up and introduce myself. Let me make them feel welcome.
Right.
Hey, you want to schedule lunch sometime? We can talk. I can, any questions you got about, here or the surrounding area or whatever, I'm more than happy. I'm here for you. When you see them, just those little things are things that we can do, and nobody has to empower you to do that.
Because you should just be doing it automatically.
Yeah. You don't have to have. One of the things I've learned is that you don't have to have the title to be the leader.
Right.
And you can lead in this space. You can lead in a diversity, engagement, inclusion space. And you don't have to have a title.
Right.
You can make little tiny, moves on your own to make people feel more welcome, to bring groups together. And it's as simple as, taking some of your time and giving it to somebody else. And whether it's a lunch, whether it's a stop by, hey, how you doing? You want to grab a coffee? I was just checking on you, see how things going. How are you doing? Little things like that can be all part of this like overall bigger lift that we're trying to do. That's such a heavy lift of making the workplace fully diverse, engaged, and included.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think when we're going down this road of attempting to, because we're in a call of action, I mean, like you said, organizational wise, with the amount of people, denouncing organizations, the idea that an organization can assist us, started many, many moons ago, especially fraternal organizations. When you're out there or you got someone listening that's trying to be diverse, are we talking also in Black Greek organizations, bringing in different types of Black and brown people, or bringing in different races?
So again, I always have to think about the questions you ask, because you leave a lot of stuff in these two questions. I would say that in these types of organizations, you are bringing in people of all different types of backgrounds in these organizations.
Yeah.
I'm an active, proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I go to conferences. I see members of all different types of backgrounds in my organization, even though it is a historically Black organization.
Right.
But that is, to me, the key is finding members, no matter what their background, that they believe in the vision and the values that your organization was formed on.
Correct.
So they understand the importance of what this organization means to the Black community, no matter what their background is.
Right.
And they're going to be welcome into that brotherhood at that point, right? So to me, it's all about still, we share a same vision and values, just like you would in a corporate organization, like you would in a community organization, like you would in a fraternity or a sorority.
Right.
So if we can agree we share these, then now we've got something in common.
Yeah.
So bring your diverse perspective in here. I don't mind that, because now we're all on one goal. We're on one path. We're working together to achieve the same thing.
Right.
You know, and we're gonna reach new heights because you're bringing in somebody different.
Right.
You know, we're gonna see an issue we never saw before because you're bringing in a different person.
Right.
And I think that's all valuable. So I mean, I don't know if that fully answered your question, but I think that's where you were going.
No. Just like anything else, this idea that if we go back to including, it starts in many different areas. It starts with how you connect with someone, you know, in your neighborhood, right? So, you know, getting outside your neighborhood, going to the next. And I think, and that's where, you know, far too often I think that we make things too complicated. It is really not that complicated to include somebody into something.
Well, and also the other thing is, we as people, and I'll throw me and you in here. This is everybody.
We talking about black people?
Just in general, people across the board.
Are we talking about our people?
Everybody, not just our people. Everybody.
Not our people.
We sometimes will focus on our differences,
right,
and not the things we have in common.
Right.
And we have so much more in common than we think.
Yeah.
But you got to have a conversation with somebody, but it'll come out, because we share. There might be somebody who's in a completely different community, for lack of a better term, than you're in. But when you start having a conversation about maybe like family, maybe about kids in school, maybe about education, you know, maybe about TV, maybe about music, whatever it is, you'll start realizing like, oh, we like these things. Maybe we both like golf. Yeah. And that's that thing. And now all of a sudden we've got that one thing we can start to build on.
Right.
But there's those commonalities there, and we have to kind of search those out, because they do exist. And they can be things that bridge across all these different various communities that we want to silo ourselves in, but we can't silo ourselves. We're stronger together as a group. So that's always my thing. It's like we have to find those things that we share.
We get lazy.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. We get lazy.
Yeah. And it's easy to drop people in that box and say, you belong in that box, and I'm going to just leave you in that box.
And, you know, to bring it back to what we were talking about, you know, in the beginning, as we wrap up, this idea of including somebody, or inclusion, from the big organizations, right? Yeah. So those that are listening, looking for assistance with mental health, HR has that, because they've included the idea that we need to, you know, focus on some things. For individuals that need, you know, different training, sensitivity training, that's there. So I know that we were talking about individuals, right? Adding different individuals, but we also can talk about adding different programs to support the individuals we bring in. So we got to roll soon. You got something quick on there?
No, I love where you're ending it at. I think that's why having the different voices matters so much, because when you have the different voices, somebody can bring that voice in there that says, hey, we need to include the people who may be going through something mentally or emotionally right now.
Say it again.
We need to include those different voices. They're only going to make you better. And and the only challenge I would leave everyone in is just to think about, what have you done that you can do on your own to be more inclusive, to make the place you're in more diverse, to make somebody else feel like they belong. What have you done? To
do the darn thing. All right, we got to wrap because they're about to cut us off.
All right.
I'll catch you next week. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM.